For a record 6 years now, Squarespace has been helping me turn my dream into reality, and that's what Squarespace does for millions of other people too. Their industry-leading website creation tools help millions of people start new careers, build new businesses, or just get things done. They're offering a special discount to viewers of this channel, so stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, welcome to release season. Well, it hasn't officially begun yet, but the preview cycle certainly has, which is why this week alone I put out previews for both Star Wars Zero Company, love that, and Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, love that one even more. Strategy gamers certainly are eating real good right now. Trust me when I tell you though that you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm currently sitting on like 4 other preview builds and 3 review codes with the promise of 3 more arriving next week. Shit is about to get absolutely nuts. I will not be going outside. I will not be sleeping. I will not rest until all of the video games are reviewed. And then I'm going to rest for like 3 months straight since nothing but GTA 6 is coming out. All right, a huge amount to cover this week, but why don't we start with a story that we ourselves broke on our website this week in Videogames.com, and let me tell you, it's pretty crazy. Last week we covered Saber Interactive's announcement of Share Stimulator, a game that was basically like, what if you were an Uber driver and had to listen to crazy passengers spout bullshit while trying not to run red lights? A crazy taxi for the modern era, only crazy in a kind of sad way. Well, things got even sadder when one Stella Sacco, who worked at Saber from July 2023 until July 2024, alleged that Share Stimulator was outsourcing creative to the data centers. Quote, "I was lead writer on this one, and Saber replaced me with ChatGPT midway through development. All the passenger voices were AI too. Either they changed direction at some point or they're not disclosing it on Steam," end quote. A bold claim, though it is true at the time of writing, Share Stimulator is not showing the AI tag on Steam, a compulsory disclosure requirement for any game that used generative AI in the game development process. Talking to PC Gamer, a Saber spokesperson provided this response, quote, "Neither Saber nor Unigen have replaced any writers with AI for Rideshare or any other game. In fact, Saber's staff of writers has tripled since 2023. Rideshare's story was written entirely by real people. The game will also feature an experimental free ride mode that by necessity incorporates AI as the number of passengers in the game is infinite. We are firm believers in using AI tools to improve or enhance gameplay experiences and improve NPC behavior, as we have done since Saber was founded in 2001. As the industry has continued to contract, Saber continues to hire. None of our 3,000 plus employees have to worry about being replaced by AI," end quote. Do note that this response does not deny the allegations of AI use in-game and instead actually acknowledges them by stating that Saber firmly believes that AI enhances gameplay experiences. Stella Sacco responded to Saber's comments to PC Gamer saying, quote, "They can say what they want. I was there. I even posted on Facebook about it at the time, and I have mentioned it on Blue Sky several times without using the game's title. They took me off the project to use ChatGPT to write the rest of the text, including planned live updates. If they change plans in the intervening years, that's great. But again, I was there, and it was my job to write the game, and then it wasn't once Matt Cart decided using ChatGPT would be great publicity for the game. To be clear, this was an issue of 1 to 2 AI dummy higher-ups at Saber. I have no beef with the Unigen team," end quote. Sacco makes it very clear that her beef is with the people at the top of the pyramid, and given that this is one of those he said, she said scenarios, we thought we'd do the most obvious thing and just ask the CEO directly. So we did. This week in Videogames.com reached out for an official response, and I'm really not exaggerating when I say that we had to do a quadruple check on this one just to make sure it was real. You'll understand why when I read it. Saber CEO Matt Cart responded to This Week in Videogames.com thusly, quote, "Stella who? I had to ask Claude because I have never spoken to her or seen her. We've already said we are using AI for certain parts of the game and will update the Steam page once we finalize the feature set. Let me clarify that the entire story script, were it to win an award, would go to someone who can walk up on stage and receive it. It was always our intention to reveal this until Stella violated her confidentiality clause and revealed this before we were ready. We look at our use of AI in this particular game, which would be a lower price title, as a plus for consumers. As far as Stella is concerned, she was replaced by someone more talented and terminated for a variety of reasons a few months later. From what I can gather, she enjoys controversy even more than I do. I would frankly, in retrospect, have been happy to replace her with AI. At least we would be dealing with someone programmed to be honest," end quote. That is a statement from a CEO of a company some 3,000 people strong. See what I mean when I say that we weren't sure that this one was real? Stella Sacco responded to the statement on Blue Sky, writing, quote, "I've seen the statement by Matt Karch, the CEO of Saber Entertainment, and all the truly horrendous things he said about me. I think it should be obvious to anyone who reads that statement that he's lashing out because he did not want people to know there was AI use in the game. Everything I said was true. Here's more truth. That statement is remarkably pathetic for the CEO of any company to be making, and combined with the AI use, it will do far more damage to Saber's reputation than it ever could mine. This screed will be many people's first exposure to the Saber brand," end quote.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's really tainted the overall reception to Share Stimulator, which earlier was just meant to be a silly little game we might have played for some laughs, but now it's become a lightning rod for issues relating to generative AI, Steam disclosures, and the Saber brand itself. A very silly own goal from Saber at a time when their portfolio is full of things that plenty of people are looking forward to. They didn't need this noise, but at least now we're all clearer about how the company feels about the use of generative AI in their development process. Not for nothing, but the reporting we were able to do here is only possible because of your financial support. Stuff like this is exactly why we started This Week in Videogames.com and staffed it with experienced, passionate journalists who want to cover this industry from every angle. We just had our 1-year anniversary and we're very proud of what we've accomplished in just that 1 year, and we're feeling more confident than ever about our future as we continue to chase stories, provide insight, and keep you up to date with everything that's going on. This is actually the last week of our special anniversary sale, so if you do want to grab that discount on an annual membership, then do get in quick. Visit thisweekinvideogames.com to sign up for a free 7-day trial, and be sure to sign up before Thursday of next week so you can grab that discount. Here's another story of a developer telling it how it really is, only the difference here is that this person is still working at the company they're putting on blast. Chris Hayes is a lead services programmer who's been working at id Software for over 16 years, and he's still employed at the studio. And he spoke with Andre Pesch of the Auf ein Bier Well Played podcast about the 136 layoffs at the studio. Quote, "It's hard to make a game that is a AAA that's like what we've done before with half the people, and by hard, I mean impossible. It's hard to make a game with our entire departments that are gutted that you need, entire disciplines that are gone," end quote. This comes in direct contrast to id's official statement after the layoffs hit that they are, quote, "still the same id and we're still going to do things," end quote. Studio co-director Hugo Martin said the studio is, quote, "the size we were when we made Doom 2016 and id Tech is very much alive and well," end quote. Hayes pushed back against this saying, quote, "we're not the same id, we're half the same id. id was the people. What made us special was the people and the relationships we have, so we have fewer than we had before. So are we going to make something equivalent to a single-player Xbox 360 game? Because that's the size of the studio we have," end quote. He took some very clear shots at Microsoft higher-ups as well by saying that they, quote, "fundamentally don't understand art." They don't. They don't understand art. They don't understand games. They don't understand that business model, end quote. Massive cojones on this dude for calling it like it is while still being employed by Microsoft, and I'm certainly going to say a little prayer for him tonight when I go to bed, because I can't imagine the higher-ups are at all happy about his commentary. Still, he's obviously spot on. Layoffs happen across this industry so often that we can become numb to them, but sometimes a cut happens that is so baffling and so destructive that you cannot but be taken back by the sheer brutality of it. The gutting of id Software is one of those cuts, and it feels like a true shot across the bow, warning that no studio, no legacy, no team, no IP, and no community is safe. I think it's a painfully short-sighted act that Xbox will come to regret, because this isn't the kind of thing that people just forget about and move on from. We didn't forget Tango Gameworks, and we sure as shit ain't gonna forget about this. One of the only pockets of Xbox that seemed untouched by the recent round of layoffs was Blizzard, and there seems to be a reason for that. They're kind of crushing it right now. According to an internal email obtained by Windows Central, Blizzard president Johanna Fares reportedly said that Blizzard was the top performing studio for Xbox last year. The Blizzard president praised the studio's performance, saying, quote, "In FY26, Blizzard ended the year as the top performing studio in Xbox's studio division, and this past year has marked our third highest fiscal for top line revenue in Blizzard's history. FY25 and FY26 were our first back-to-back years of growth since FY17, end quote. Fares goes on to give credit to Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred and Overwatch for driving performance, with Overwatch, quote, delivering its strongest quarter since 2022, end quote. She then points to the future of the studio and BlizzCon, saying that the high performance allows the studio to invest in more staff, games, and other initiatives that will, quote, shape Blizzard's future, end quote. As for BlizzCon, Fares hopes, quote, the weekend will reflect the bold and collaborative work of everyone reading this. It's my hope that the event can shine a light on the work underway at Blizzard, and that it can serve as a powerful springboard into a new era of momentum and excitement behind our mission to bring joy and belonging for communities worldwide, end quote. All of this comes on the heels of a massive reshuffle at Xbox, which saw 1,600 layoffs and divestments from 5 studios like Double Fine and Compulsion Games. Blizzard North America seems to have been unaffected by this first round of layoffs, although according to Aftermath, a small number of roles in China were cut during this last round of layoffs. We still have another 1,600 layoffs to go this year though, so it's anyone's guess what ends up happening with Blizzard in the long term. Blizzard makes a hell of a lot of money from their successful live service offerings and MMOs, but you know who's not making money from MMOs? Amazon, and so they're pulling the plug on their MMO publishing business. Amazon has announced that they will return Lost Ark and Throne of Liberty to their developers, a move that aligns with the shuttering of their in-house MMO New World Eternium. Lost Ark will be returned to developer Smilegate to maintain live service operations in early 2027. Smilegate served as publisher in South Korea, while Amazon handled publishing in Europe, North America, Latin America, and Oceania. Reception was positive on launch, and in 2022, Lost Ark achieved Steam's second highest concurrent player count with over 1.3 million players 24 hours after after its Western launch. The team wrote that the game, quote, will continue to thrive here and other regions where Smilegate supports the game, end quote. MMORPG Throne of Liberty live service operations will also be returned to its developers, First Park Games, and publisher NC Corporation in Q4 this year. Throne and Liberty released to mixed reviews, including a mixed rating from Austin on our team back in 2024. It reached a peak of 336,000 concurrent players on Steam on its Western launch date. Throne and Liberty's team described the transfer as a, quote, positive outcome for the game's community. Together with NC, we are working closely to support a smooth transition and minimize disruption to your experience, end quote. Announced earlier this year, New World Eternium, Amazon's in-house MMORPG, will shut down in January of 2027. The dev team wrote at the time, quote, there will be no new content or further server mergers for the remainder of the game's life, but we will continue to monitor bugs and performance to ensure the game runs smoothly as things wind down, end quote. Do recall that Amazon also announced the cancellation of a Lord of the Rings MMORPG in May, even though Amazon Game Studios says that it, quote, continues to explore a compelling new game experience, end quote, set in the Lord of the Rings universe. Me personally, I'm just waiting for that Warhorse Lord of the Rings game because I have 1000% faith in them and about 4% faith in Amazon. The GTA hype train was always going to be huge, but I don't think anyone expected it to be quite this big. Take-Two recently held an earnings call where boss man Strauss Zelnick commented on GTA 6 pre-orders, calling them, quote, an exceptional start, unprecedented, astonishing. No one's ever seen anything like this before at Take-Two and in the industry, end quote. Zelnick did not want to celebrate prematurely though, saying, quote, the pre-orders are so unprecedented, we don't know how it'll translate into sales. We don't believe in claiming victory before it occurs, end quote. Having a physical disc for your game doesn't seem to have slowed GTA 6 down, because when asked about Sony's decision to stop producing physical discs, he flagged Take-Two's business is, quote, well over 90% digitally distributed, end quote. Zelnick's hesitance to pop the champagne seems misplaced, especially after an interview with CNBC in which he claimed that most of the pre-orders are for the $100 Ultimate Edition. Quote, it's actually skewing more to the premium edition, but that might be a reflection again of the fact that the most avid consumers are the ones who are pre-ordering now, end quote. Well, if you lock core parts of your game behind a premium edition paywall, it makes sense that people with FOMO front up that extra cash so as to not miss out on that content. But you already knew that. A quick lightning round to finish off, and Australians are going to miss out on the newest asymmetric horror title, Halloween the Game. Developer Illphonic took to social media to announce that Halloween the Game has been refused classification in Australia, saying, quote, despite every effort on our part, the Australian Classifications Board has denied Halloween the Game. The denial was not based on the presence of the iconic slasher, Michael Myers, or the outstanding kills that can be performed in the game, but rather the presence of a controlled substance. Unfortunately, to our disappointment, and certainly yours, this means that we cannot sell the physical or digital product in both Australia and New Zealand, end quote. This aligns with hands-on coverage from horror content creator Slash and Cast, who commented that, quote, smoking weed in Halloween allows you to see Michael's pings across the map and can give you an advantage, end quote. Despite some confusion regarding the state of the ban this week, the Classifications Board did confirm to thisweekinvideogames.com that the game is definitely not receiving a rating, which means it will not be sold in Australia. A sad time for horror fans. And weed fans too, I guess. If hypothetically Halloween was to get an 18+ rating in Australia and you wanted to play it on Xbox, you would then have to verify that you're old enough to purchase it, because Xbox is rolling out age verification to games with an R18+ rating in Australia. This is rolling out through August, but Xbox notes, quote, games and content you already have are not affected, end quote. This follows Australia's age verification requirements across websites and digital storefronts. Xbox's options for verification include facial age estimation, providing credit card details or an official government ID, as well as email-based age verification, where they essentially look to see how long an email address has been in use and where it's been used. All of these different verification avenues are hosted by third-party proprietors, including Verify My, an email-based verification service that shares your email with, quote, third-party partners to review sites and apps where you've previously used it, only to verify your age. Your email messages are never read and no copy of your email address is kept, end quote. Yeah, sure. I'm sure we can totally trust that. Absolutely. If I sound a little skeptical, it's because this has given me some deja vu from that time that Discord implemented age verification and 70,000 government IDs were exposed, 68,000 of which were from Australia. Best of luck, Xbox. Devolver Digital wants to go private. The company shared its proposal to investors on August 6 to stop trading on AIM, a sub-market of the London Stock Exchange. Investors will vote on September 8th, which requires 75% shareholder approval to pass and would make Devolver a private company for the first time since 2021. The company detailed its decision, saying, quote, the global video games industry has undergone a period of significant disruption and volatility. Devolver has faced the ongoing challenge of delivering growth in line with market expectations despite these difficult sector conditions, resulting in a valuation disconnect that does not take account of the lifetime and long-tail revenue delivery inherent in the video games business, end quote. Speaking of gamesindustry.biz, a spokesperson summed it up by saying, quote, being private will allow the Devolver Digital team, especially the finance, legal, and executive team, to singularly focus on the long-term health of the company and less on satisfying the requirements of the public market, which have nothing to do with being a successful video game publisher, end quote. Well said. Eric Baptizat, former Assassin's Creed game director, is back at Ubisoft after a 5-year stint at EA's Motive Studio. Baptizat started at Ubisoft back in 2005 and worked there for almost 16 years, becoming the lead designer on Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Origins, as well as game director on AC Valhalla. In 2021, he moved over to Motive Studio, serving as the game director for the Dead Space remake, while also contributing to Battlefield 6. But Assassin's Creed head of content Jean Gaston announced his title as the brand's game director, saying, quote, Eric needs no introduction in this universe. 16 years at Ubisoft, key contributions to Black Flag, Origins, and Valhalla as game director, his passion for gameplay craft, and his deep connection to the franchise speak for themselves, end quote. Do remember earlier this year that both Assassin's Creed Hex creative director Clint Hocking and game director Benoit Richer left the studio. No idea if Baptizat is going to be filling the gaps here, but it would certainly make a lot of sense. EA has announced that they've completed the $55 billion private acquisition by investors Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, or PIF, the investment firms Silver Lake and Affinity Partners. It's considered to be the largest leverage buyout in history, and now means that the Saudis and Jared Kushner own Battlefield, The Sims, and EAFC. Yay! What did EA do in the lead up to this massive buyout? Well, between its announcement in September of 2025 and the closure of the acquisition, they laid off a reported 300 to 400 workers, closed Cliffhanger Games, downsized BioWare, cut staff at Battlefield Labs during a record year for the franchise, pushed generative AI into the development pipeline, and announced new ways to put ads into games. So things are going really great, and I'm sure they're about to get even better with $20 billion worth of debt dragging down the company's balance sheet. You thought EA was bad before? You ain't seen nothing yet. A number of layoffs this week, and first up is Supermassive Games, who have just announced they're letting go of 75 employees. The studio behind Until Dawn, The Quarry, and the Dark Pictures anthology released a statement detailing the news, saying, quote, we have made the difficult decision to begin a redundancy consultation process, which we anticipate will result in the loss of up to 75 of our colleagues. This is a necessary step to help ensure the sustainability of the company. We know this will be an incredibly difficult time for everyone, and our priority through the process will be to provide support to all those impacted, end quote. If all 75 employees are let go, that would make up around 43% of the studio. This follows the CEO Robert Henryson leaving the company in June and multiple rounds of layoffs over the course of the last 3 years. The latest addition to the Dark Pictures anthology, The Directive 8020, released in May of this year to mixed reviews from critics and Steam users alike, and it really felt like a bit of a low point for the studio that's lost a lot of talent and momentum over the last few years. Really hope they can find a way to get their mojo back, and soon. That's No Moon, the studio behind the upcoming cinematic action shooter Crossfire, has reportedly been hit with 14 layoffs. According to a number of LinkedIn posts, the positions impacted including technical artists, environment artists, and biome artists, with a senior concept artist identifying the number of roles, saying, quote, one of the 14 affected by the recent layoffs at That's No Moon, end quote. That's No Moon's website details that they employ roughly 140 people, with one current employee indicating that the Crossfire team actually sits at around 200 employees. Not sure why such a small number of positions had been cut, but we'll keep an eye on this one as we get more information. On to Nintendo financials now, and man, is the Switch 2 selling like hotcakes. At the end of financial year 26, which is January to March 2026, Nintendo confirmed that the Switch 2 had sold 2.49 million units in quarter 4. That brought lifetime sales to about 19.86 million units. Fast forward to quarter 1 2027, which is April to June 2026, Nintendo reports selling 3.82 million Switch 2 units, up 1.33 million units from the previous quarter. That brings lifetime sales of the Switch to 23.68 million units and makes it Nintendo's fastest selling console after 5 financial quarters. Nintendo attributed the success to the fact that, quote, many consumers continue to adopt the Switch 2, encouraged by the release of new titles and other factors, end quote. On the software front, Pokemon Pocopia, one of the best-selling Pokemon spin-offs of all time and just a great game in general, sold 1.27 million copies during this most recent quarter and has now shifted a total of 5 million units. Very well deserved. Even more impressive is the runaway success of Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, which has now sold nearly 8 million copies from April to June. This absolutely rules, and I hope it gives Nintendo the confidence to invest in its more niche franchises. Bring back Kid Icarus, you cowards. If all of this is piquing your interest, then do keep in mind that Nintendo announced that they were raising the price of Switch 2 consoles back in May. Prices have already gone up in Japan from approximately 50,000 yen to 60,000 yen. For all other territories, the price will go up on September 1st of this year, and using US prices as an example, the console would go from $450 to $500. Like all other game consoles, the best time to buy them is yesterday, because these price hikes don't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Let's run through some sales numbers to finish off, starting off with the indie darling Mecha Chameleon, which has now sold through 20 million million copies in just 2 months. Absolutely nuts. Huge congrats to them. Big Walk, one of the highest rated games of the year, is also a financial success for studio House, selling 1 million units in just 6 days, making it a faster seller than their last title, Untitled Goose Game. Such a deserved result for one of the best experiences you can have gaming with your friends this year. Currently playing through this one myself with a small crew and really loving it, by the way. Call of Duty, a series so powerful that even its re-releases can sell gangbusters. According to LNA Analytics, the PlayStation ports for Black Ops 1 and 2 have sold over 11 million copies. There was even a 50% launch discount for PS Plus subscribers, but even with that steep sale, the two titles generated an estimated $435 million in revenue. The top 3 games on LNA's charts for June were Black Ops 2 with about 8.2 million units sold, Black Ops 1 was next with 3 million units sold, and in third was a remake, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, selling 1.6 million units. Interesting to note that even though these titles were released on a rival console, with PlayStation taking their 30% cut, Xbox will take home a huge slice of that pie, with LNA noting, quote, the combined US $435 million is already nearly as much as Forza Horizon 6 has made via base game sales all year, end quote. Last but definitely not least is No Man's Sky, which in its 10th year saw its, quote, highest player numbers since launch, end quote. Hello Games managing director Sean Murray sent out a message celebrating 10 years saying, quote, millions of players have made No Man's Sky their home, created insane bases, built communities, made friends, and built really creative custom ships. Tens of millions of travelers have spent hundreds of millions of hours exploring and sharing their discoveries. Voyagers released last year and saw more players than we had since launch, and still, all these years later, players have explored less than 1% of the planets in No Man's Sky, end quote. At the end of the video, Hello Games confirmed that they will still support No Man's Sky into the future, teasing their next update titled Cosmos. Murray confirmed that the studio is, quote, busy cooking on our next game, Light No Fire, end quote. Light No Fire was announced back in 2023, and at the time of writing, it is the second most wish-listed game on Steam behind Valve's Deadlock. Still one of the best and most wholesome comeback stories in the history of gaming, a story that continues to get better and better with every new free content drop. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, quite a lot actually. There are a few new things worth mentioning. Bethesda announced a new expansion pack for Quake 1 during QuakeCon, of course, which is free for anyone who owns the game on current and last-gen platforms. It's called Dawn of the Machine, and it was developed by the team at Machine Games, one of the studios that seems to have emerged unscathed from Microsoft's recent layoffs, at least for now. Another game that was announced was The Walking Dead Streets of Survival, and it's yet another licensed game based on the TV show. This time it's cashing in on the very popular modern retro beat-em-up genre. This one's being developed by an outfit called Oticlick Games, who previously did the beat-em-up based on The Karate Kid 2 years ago. This one's coming to all platforms September 18th. If you like horror, Sam Barlow is going back to that realm with his next FMV game. He's a developer behind games like that weird Silent Hill game for the Wii, who then went on to make Her Story and the excellent Immortality. One of his new projects was revealed this week, and it's called Precognition, a game being made with horror director Brandon Cronenberg and being published by Kinetic, the developers of Phasmophobia, who recently got into publishing. The whole deal with this one is that it's a non-linear sci-fi game where you play a woman who can see visions of her own future, make choices to decide what to remember, and live with the consequences. Few other details other than there's going to be some weird time travel stuff, but this one won't be out until early 2028, so we do have some time to wait. Speaking of time travel, how about going back to 17th century Japan? Again, the folks at Sucker Punch announced not one but 2 expansions to Ghost of Yotei this week, which seems to be probably the last ones we're going to get, as they're also wrapping up everything in a complete edition together with the Legends multiplayer mode. First off, there'll be a new narrative-focused expansion called Echoes of Sekigahara, which they say will involve a figure from Atsu's past, flashback to a pivotal moment when Atsu was on the mainland of Japan, and a new area to explore on top of new enemies, weapons, and armor. The second expansion is called Most Wanted and is not a Need for Speed game, but is in fact a, quote, single-player combat survival mode, our take on a roguelike, end quote, and it'll feature incremental build crafting as well as different characters to use. And hey man, if it's anything like that God of War roguelike, then absolutely sign me up. All of this will be out on the 1st of October this year, PS5 only of course, since Sony's clearly not up for any more PC stuff. And after what happened this week with Marvel Tokon, maybe that's for the best. A couple of shadow drops this week too, if you can believe it. The first is Lord of the Rings War in the North Legacy Edition, which was the action RPG that kind of had a middling reception, but certainly has its devoted fans today. That one was put out by Aspyr and it's available on all platforms. And there was another shadow drop actually in Everspace 2 Galactic Edition, a package containing the space shooter RPG that came out in 2023 with all its DLC. I have a bit of a fondness for this one, and you know what? Seems like it'd be a really nice fit for the Switch too, especially if you just came off Star Fox and you want something a little more meaty. A handful of release dates got thrown out last week too. We'll start with a couple of games we're really looking forward to. The first is Toem 2, the sequel to the very charming black and white photography puzzle game. That one got a release date September 29th for PC, PS5, and Switch. Another one is Over the Hill, the next game from the developers of Art of Rally. This is kind of a chill co-op off-roading exploration game, and it's coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and Switch 2 on the 14th of October. Speaking of co-op, Devolver announced a new Serious Sam game a little while ago that's kind of like a co-op FPS FPS roguelike developed by Dead by Daylight studio Behavior Interactive. And we've got a release date of August 31st for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles, so not long till that one. On the other hand, it seems weird we had to wait so long for this one. Minecraft is getting a Switch 2 port later this year, and it's landing on October 27th. Also, Crimson Moon, that co-op fantasy game from Probably Monsters, has a release date now, September 1st for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. And to wrap things up, a few things are entering and exiting early access. The first is 1666 Amsterdam, that new game from Patrice Desilets, best known as one of the creators of Assassin's Creed, and his studio Panache Digital. Amsterdam revolves around witchcraft and spellcasting, and also playing a cat who can travel back from the 20th century for some reason. This one hits early access on Steam on the 25th of August. On the other hand, exiting early access on the 2nd of September is Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. That's the hybrid dungeon crawling and shop management simulator from the folks at Digital Sun and 11-bit Studios. Good little game here actually, and it'll hit PS5 and Xbox Series consoles when it hits 1.0 as well. And finally, Endless Legend 2 exits early access on September 17th. This is the 4X strategy game from Amplitude Studios, who split from Sega a few years ago following the underwhelming Humankind. And they've gone back to their roots in a big way here. This one seems to have fared pretty well in early access so far, and it is being published by Hooded Horse, who at this point clearly know a good strategy game when they see it. Best of luck for that 1.0, PC only for this one. One delay worth mentioning here as we wrap things up. Told you it was a busy week. Dawn of War 4 has been pushed back a few months. The fact that we were getting a sequel at all was a really nice surprise, and it was originally slated for September 17th, but now we'll have to wait until December 3rd. Honestly, I'm okay with that, since there's literally nothing else coming out in December, so this will do just fine. Alright, so what came out last week? Well, we've got a bit of stuff to catch up on, so let's make it quick. Anime farming sim Fields of Mystria came out of early access and has maintained its overwhelmingly positive status on Steam, with over 90% of its recent reviews being positive as well. Over 31,000 concurrents playing this one at the time of writing. Very impressive indeed. Restory was that chill electronics repair game set in the noughties in Japan. That game's also landed in the overwhelmingly positive bracket after almost 4,000 reviews. The CEO of its publisher Tiny Build has been very transparent with the performance for this one. It's apparently hit over $3 million in sales in its first week and made back its budget after just 12 hours, and that's with roughly 250,000 sales to date. You can definitely see why too. Ed on our team has been playing a bit of this one in his downtime, and it turns out getting to tinker with and fix old video game consoles makes what is essentially paint by numbers busy work like 10 times more appealing. Montabi is that creature collecting, deck building roguelike we featured on our radar segment a couple of weeks back, and it's landed at a very positive rating on Steam too, with 95% positive reviews. Though there are less than 100 reviews at this point, so get in there quick while it's still a hidden gem. Here's Steam user Chai Teat 5, who gave it a thumbs up after 9 hours, saying, quote, "I've been wanting a break from Slay the Spire 2, and this game is a fresh new take on deck building and strategy with an appealing design. The gameplay loop is fun and feels similar to Slay the Spire 2 with an emphasis on movement, which I really enjoy. The art is charming and has a bit of a retro feel to it. I'm having a blast. Best purchase I've made in the past month," end quote. There you go. All right, Marvel Tokon time now, which has been having quite the launch on PC if you've been loosely following the issues around that at all. Long story short is that the canary in the coal mine that was present during the open beta reared its ugly head in a big way for the PC version launch as well, resulting in a litany of technical issues causing hitches, stuttering, and poor performance, which you simply do not want in a competitive game like this. These issues even had a flow-on effect to console players who were unlucky enough to get matchmade with PC players and had just a terrible time. But the good news is that as we're writing this, developer Arc Systems Works has released a hefty patch, which seems to have resolved a lot of the problems, at least so far. Steam reviews for this one started off in the mostly negative space, but have climbed up to mixed in the following days. But it's still just 45% positive after 3,000 or so reviews, and not just because of the technical issues, mind you, but because people are putting Sony on blast for the PSN requirement and the seemingly excessive anti-cheat and Linux incompatibility. On the media side, reviews have been slowly trickling in. Sony did not provide early access to this one, unfortunately, because we assume that Sony considers it an online game first and foremost. But from the dozen or so reviews on OpenCritic at the time of writing, Tokon is currently sitting at a mighty 90. Not too sure how much we want to lean on reviews that have spent just 4 days with the game, but do know that they're all 8s and 9s across the board so far. As for us, we've definitely got plans to take a look at this one eventually. This week in Videogames.com editor Ed is a very big fighting game enthusiast, and he's certainly begun going through all it has to offer, while I myself am just a big sucker for Marvel stuff and just have to satisfy my curiosity to see if this crazy game is as impenetrable as it seems. Stay tuned. Okay, so what's coming out this week? Another big week for small and medium-sized games and DLC, the latter of which we'll start off with. Mafia: The Old Country is getting its first piece of expansion content, and it's called Man of Honor. This one adds 2 new chapters to the game, revolving once again around Enzo, which will see him working alongside the recently released Ennio Salieri, who will end up becoming the Don from the very first Mafia game. The story was the absolute best part of The Old Country. In fact, I kind of think it was really the only part, so kind of interested to see what they got cooking with this one. But also, since this is still a video game asked video game, I do want to point out how funny this no-nonsense list of items is on the Steam description page. 3 guns, 3 knives, 3 vehicles, 2 horses, 5 hats. Man, once you start getting 5 new hats at once, that's when you know you're a made man. It's going to be out on Friday the 14th of August, so by the time you're seeing this, you too could be wearing 5 new hats. Also out on Friday is the next game from one of the horror world's most notable names, Blumhouse, or more specifically, their game publishing arm. The new release is called Grave Seasons, and it sounds like a good one. It's a narrative-focused farming simulator, but set in a town that's also home to a supernatural serial killer, and it's actually randomized for each playthrough. If that's not cozy, I don't know what is. So by day, you'll be farming and crafting and talking to townsfolk, and by night, you'll be investigating and warding off monsters. And yes, you can romance the townsfolk, including the potential killer. Pretty cool concept. This one's coming out on all platforms. If you prefer not to have all that blood and gore in your cozy farming simulators, then fair enough. You might be interested in this next one though, which is a 1.0 release of Star Sand Island, the cute, beachy, anime-infested life simulator from Chinese studio Seed Sparkle Lab. This one has been in early access since February of this year and has a very positive sentiment among Steam users so far with over 6,100 reviews. The 1.0 release will also bring it to PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch 2 on Tuesday the 18th of August. If you like your human settlements underwater instead of above them though, you might be more interested in The Sinking City 2. This is the latest from Ukrainian developer Frogwares, who have certainly been going through it the last few years, and that's putting it mildly, both with some challenges over the Sinking City IP with their former publisher Nacon, who filed for insolvency this year actually, and of course the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In regards to this game in particular, it had its development paused and rebooted a few years ago amid the war, and has gone from being an investigation game to a more focused Lovecraftian survival horror game. Looks super promising, very keen to hear how it lands. It'll be out on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles on Tuesday, August 18th. A few days later, on August 20th, we've got another release from a Ukrainian developer, GSC Game World. These folks are of course releasing the first expansion for the Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, and it's called Cost of Hope. It'll finally take you to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant with a new story, enemies, and gear. If you haven't played around with this one since launch, it could be a good time to do so. Reviews on Steam have gotten markedly better in the last year or so. This one will be out on all platforms where the game is available, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. Also landing on August 20th is one that I know a lot of people are looking forward to, Mortal Shell 2, a Souls-like sequel that, based on the reaction to its open beta / glorified demo, seems to have really stepped up in its approach and tried to do its own thing. A lot of very cool enemy designs and environments in this one, and it's again being put out by Balatro publisher PlayStack, so clearly they believed in the team here, even after the very mixed reception the original game got. Good on them. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for this one, and do look forward to a day one review from Austin as well. And finally, rounding out the next 7 days on August 20th, we have the release of Gallipoli, a World War I first-person shooter from Black Mill Games, who have carved out a very nice niche for themselves, tackling the different theaters of this historical event in video game form. Australia is a front and center in this one, as Gallipoli was the first time the country really stepped foot onto the world stage in this way. If you're getting deja vu, I don't blame you. This one was originally meant to release back in May, but Black Mill apparently ran into a critical issue on all platforms that forced a 3-month delay, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for this one. Good luck to them. Look, we love spotlighting Australia here on This Week in Video Games, so let's keep it rolling, shall we? Put this on your radar.
Footy, footy, footy! I love footy!
I love you too.
What the bloody hell is this, you ask? This is footy, of course. Australia loves sport almost as much as it likes gambling, and the most treasured sport of all is footy. This game specifically, however, is called Pro Jank Footy, and it's a modern retro interpretation of the sport that aims for 1000% realism. Like, did you know in footy, when one team scores a goal, the other team gets to have double the amount of players on the field, and sometimes drive cars instead of running, and sometimes turn into seagulls? It's all absolutely true. I would never lie to you about this. This is our culture, and we take it extremely seriously. This one's been put together by Australian comedy writers Dave Ashby and Dario Russo, who clearly have a lot of love for serious sport, with match commentary provided by Broden Kelly of Auntie Donna fame. It's also being put out by Umbrella Entertainment, who are a local film distributor just getting into gaming, who I've been told are best known overseas as the company that puts out sick Blu-ray releases and not dangerous zombie viruses. That's a different Umbrella Corp. Anyway, we've played this one a bit over the last couple of years at local conventions, and it's always a really good time. Definitely one to play with a friend in local multiplayer, and there is online multiplayer as well. So if you do like the look of Pro Jank Footy, we've left a link to it over on our Steam curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. It's been a few months now since Valve released the Steam controller, and while the Steam machine it was partly built for has met a mixed reception, the controller is a certified hit both for its core functionality and its nice little touches. We covered one of those a few months back in another feel-good block, that thing where if you drop the controller from a certain height, the haptic motors kick in and somehow recreate the Wilhelm scream. Well, it turns out these motors have plenty more uses, like Self-parking? Twitter user Ray Foss built a script that combines an overhead camera rig with the Steam controller puck, allowing the controller to utilize the haptic motors to essentially vibrate its way back to its dock. It's pretty unnecessary because I'm sure we can all reach the extra 30 centimeters required just to dock the controller ourselves, but never let a reality check stand in the way of a good waste of time. Damn man, that ended up being a way bigger show than I expected, but I guess I shouldn't be too surprised given how much stuff is about to release. It's a huge 2 months coming up on the channel, and if you want to be here for all of it, then be sure to subscribe and ding that notification bell. And if you haven't already, we'd love it if you could drop the video a like, since that's actually what helps keep the lights on for most YouTube channels, us included. The best possible way to support our independent coverage though is to sign up over at thisweekinvideogames.com, either for free or as a paid supporter. And for one more week, we're running that special anniversary discount that'll get you an extra 10% off an annual subscription. Do look forward to a Mortal Shell review from Austin sometime next week, plus some very exciting preview content from me as well. For now though, I'm gonna go play some more Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Thanks again for watching, and a big thanks to this video's sponsor, Squarespace.
Do you run your own business, or do you want to? If so, a website is really helpful, and there's no better or easier way to build a website than Squarespace. Let's say, for example, you have a store that sells stuff, I don't know, clothes, shoes, furniture, cell phones, whatever. That store exists in just one spot, and you're probably only able to service your local area. But what if you could tap into a much bigger market? What if you had a website that lets customers find you no matter where they are? What if they could see your inventory online and make purchases? And what if you had a website that could facilitate all of that seamlessly? Well, that's exactly what Squarespace does. Squarespace lets you build professional-looking websites in minutes. You just select from their extensive list of pre-built templates, customize those templates to your heart's desire, and boom, an incredible-looking website that looks like it costs thousands of dollars to build, when in reality, you did it all yourself. That's just the front end, whereas business owners are going to be equally interested in the back end. Squarespace provides intuitive tools for inventory management, customized shipping options and label printing, simple payment solutions through platforms like PayPal and Stripe, and detailed analytics so you can track how well business is going. There's even award-winning customer support on hand to assist you should you ever get stuck or just need some advice. It's an easy-to-use end-to-end solution that could change your life, to be honest. A website is one of the best ways to get yourself or your business out there. So if you're thinking about kicking off something new, either personally or professionally, a website is certainly going to be a great step in that process. If you want to get started, then visit squarespace.com to start building your website through their free trial. And if you want to get serious, then use offer code SKILLUP at checkout for a 10% discount off your purchase of a website or a domain name. Thanks very much to Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.